All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Tom Ziglar. Tom, welcome. Welcome.
Hey, Kevin, great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, I know we were talking a little bit before we started the recording here, and you and I are talking right now because of our mutual friend, Melvin Pillay. And I've known Melvin for about 7 years now. I actually met him through my friend, Perry Marshall. Perry was doing a really intimate event about 7 years ago with Melvin. I don't think there was more than a dozen of us there at that event. It was in Chicago at a commercial space. And he had got a hold of me and says, Kevin, I'm doing this thing and you need to be here. And I was close enough with Perry that I was like, well, you know what? If you feel that strongly about it, Perry, okay, I'll come there for that. And so I went, and it was interesting is I was really looking for, I had a very successful business at the time, but I was also kind of starting this transition that I just knew and felt there was something else that I was being called to do. And I was looking for some clarity. And that day, Melvin, he offered a lot of clarity. And as you know, Melvin is a pretty amazing man of God. And we just totally hit it off. It was a pretty emotional experience for me. And we've been friends ever since. And I recently had the opportunity to interview Melvin for this. And afterward, and of course, Zig was the person that Melvin honored as having, and it was such an amazing story Melvin shared. And after that, he was like, Kevin, he's like, what I'd like to do is I'd like to connect you with Tom. And if you're all right with that, I'll reach out to him to see if he's open to doing an interview. And it turned out you were. And here we are. And so I am just so honored to be having this conversation with you today, Tom. And what I'd like to do is just kind of start by turning over to you to just share a little bit about what you do, who you serve, what motivates you to do what you do, and just like set some context and let everyone know, like, who is Tom Ziglar?
You got it. Well, I'm the CEO of the Ziglar Corporation. I tell people I've been working in the business for 57 years, my whole life, just kind of raised in it. And, I'm blessed to follow my father, Zig Ziglar, in the sense that he just left such an amazing legacy. Everywhere I go, I meet friends and family I never knew I had because of his impact. Yeah. The company, Dad's was, maybe the greatest speaker that ever took the stage. He wrote, gosh, it's getting close to 50 books now because about a dozen of them have come out since he passed away almost 10 years ago. Through the transcription of audio programs and things like that. So his legacy just keeps building and growing. Now our business is primarily focused on kind of equipping and supporting speakers and trainers and coaches to carry on the legacy by teaching the life-changing message and philosophy that we have. And we work with coaches who are they want to serve individuals. We work with leadership coaches who are working with executives and large companies. And we work with speakers and trainers who go out and take the stage and carry that on. And so that's what we do. And my role in all of that is just serving those customers and coaches and speakers who are carrying that on. So I love it. I get to speak. I've written a couple of books and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And after Melvin had connected us, I went to your website and I saw this video presentation. I don't remember how long it was, 45 minutes or an hour or something like that, where you were talking about some of that. And I remember when you were talking about your dad's ties. And how you wear those ties now, and that is such a big piece of his legacy and stuff. And it's like, and I think back to when I was a kid, and it's interesting how things come full circle, because when I was a kid so I was born in 65. In 1975, when I was 10, my mom and dad got involved in Amway. And they didn't mess around. They got down to business, and that was their thing. That was their jam. And so my brother's 2 years younger than me, we kind of became Amway kids. And like you, when at a young age of 12, your dad taking you to events and not like dragging you kicking and screaming. This was something that you guys did together, and you liked it as a kid. And the same thing happened for me. My parents took me. They didn't drag me kicking and screaming. They were just like, and the cool thing is there was lots of other Amway kids too. So it was a great experience. And I remember I can't remember how old I was, but I do remember going to a very large Amway function in Oregon, in Portland. I think it was at the Red Lion, if I remember right, but there was thousands of people there, and your dad spoke there. And I remember seeing him when I was just a teenager. And then I got reintroduced to him later. After I graduated high school, I spent some time in the military, then time working as a fisherman in Alaska, and then started my own business in 1996. And through a friend of mine, Joe Polish, who became a mentor to me, I got reconnected with Zig again and found myself at an event at the Maidenbauer Center in Bellevue, Washington, another big event where your dad got to speak. And I got to introduce myself to him at that event and let him know that, hey, I'm friends with Joe Polish, and that's how I got here. And that was a really cool experience. And so it's what an amazing thing to have this carrying on this legacy that has had an impact and continues to have an impact on so many lives.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been to many, many, many Amway events growing up, and then supporting Dad when he would go and speak. And it was actually at an Amway event where I first realized what we did. I was just out of college working at the company and probably 25 years old. And Dad was speaking in a big event. I think they had about 30,000 people there. And I was one of the people in the back of the room selling product.
Okay.
And so this was a big arena. And the way they did it, this event was at 5:00, they emptied the arena for a 2-hour dinner. So everybody leaves. Mm-hmm. And then they told us to come in because Dad, Zig Ziglar, was going to be the surprise guest speaker. Wow. So nobody knew he was coming.
Oh, okay.
And so we went in and we had a bunch of pallets of product. Back then it was VHS and cassette tape and books. And so we set up about 20 tables with all the product that would support 30,000 people. And then they made us put tablecloths over it. Because when they opened the doors at 7 and everybody ran in to get their seats, they didn't want people to look over and see that Zig Ziglar was going to be speaking. Mm-hmm. So they open the door and they start running in, and they're like, one of the first guys through the door, he's running by and he looks over at our table, and the tablecloth, the corner was up on the side, and he could see a picture of Dad. And he comes straight for me and he goes, "Is Zig Ziglar going to speak here?" And I said, "Shh, don't tell anybody." And I put the tablecloth down. And then he said, is he going to autograph books? I want to get an autograph. And I said, "Yeah, he is." He goes, "Where's the line?" And I said, "Well, it's 7:00. Dad is scheduled to come on." I knew the program. I said, "He's scheduled to come on about 12:00. And this is Amway, which means it's going to run at least an hour late by then."
That's right.
I said, "So people won't even know that he's going to speak until 1, and the line's going to form after that. So why don't you go enjoy it, get a great seat, and then about 11:30, come back here and you can get in line that nobody knows exists."
Yep.
And he says, "I'm just going to get in line now. Where is that?" So I show him the empty table and I said, "Well, it's going to be down there." So he goes down there and he just starts standing there. Wow. And I'm like, "This is no way this is going to last." So about an hour and a half later, he's still there standing in line that nobody knows exists.
Wow.
So I go up to him and I say, "Okay, what's your story?" And so here was his story. He had immigrated from Central America. He moved in with his brother who lived in Chicago. And he came for a better life. And he said, after 3 weeks of living in an apartment with his brother, he went to his brother and said, if I'm going to be successful in America, I'm going to have to learn English. And his brother, he said, gave me this book, and it was See at the Top. And he said, here's what you do. You translate this book. Here's a Spanish dictionary, English to Spanish. You translate this book into Spanish, and then you translate it back into English. And in that process, you'll learn English, and it will change your life.
Wow.
The guy starts crying. And he says, this book, the message in here, it saved my marriage. He said, I was an alcoholic. I was coming here for a better life. But the fact is I didn't have anything. My wife was going to leave me. I was going to lose my family. This book helped me repair my relationship with my wife. I'm no longer drink. And look at this. I'm living the American dream. I've got 2 jobs, and Amway is fantastic. And that's when I realized the business that we were in is that experience. And so fond memories of Amway back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Wow. Thanks so much for sharing that. All right. So let's shift gears just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. And so here's the question. Have you ever met or been introduced to someone who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not even be possible if not for this person? And Tom, I'm just really excited to hear you share your experience and your story around this, as well as just have you be able to honor somebody who has had such a profound impact on your life and on your business.
Well, the good news is I met that person the day I was born with Dad, and his impact on me and everything that he did for me. People asked, well, what was it like growing up as Zig Ziglar's son? And I'll tell you, as good as Dad was on stage, he was even better off stage. His love, his kindness, his desire to see the best for each of us, my sisters and myself, was just amazing. And so he prepared that way. Everything that he taught me, it's like, we all have a voice in our head, right? When we're like, should I do that? Or what? That voice is Dad's voice, right? And then he left me thousands of hours of audio and video to remember him by. And what a huge blessing. Books, I mean, it's every time I read one of the things and is that people will tell me, hey, when I heard your dad speak, it was like he was talking to me and I was the only one there. Dad just had a gift for that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's an unfair advantage for me to say somebody who changed my life, in a way. And it happens every day. The lessons, the memories. Whenever there's a challenging situation in our business, I'll say, well, what would Dad do? And it's just constantly there. And so that's who I point to. And because of that, I've had other relationships who people were changed by Dad, and I can talk about some of those as well, but they changed me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's do that. Let's share some of that. Because like I said, the whole goal of this podcast is twofold: to let you share your story and experience and honor somebody like this. And also on the other side, I want to inspire and motivate the listeners to place an intentional focus on creating more rewarding, meaningful relationships, because relationships are the most valuable asset that we have, hands down.
Yeah, so I'm just going to point out three men who I've had relationships with over the years. The first one, Bruce Barber, and I've known him the longest of everybody. He actually helped Dad publish the book Secrets of Closing the Sale, and that came out, I think, in '86. So, and I started working at the company in 87, 88. So I've known Bruce really since around late 80s, right, 1990. And he represented Dad and became our agent. And he's, just a great friend. And he has spoken into my life so many times. In right around 2000, we made I was the president of the company, and I made some decisions which had full support, but it was kind of my deal. And it ended up being just a really tough business time. We went into a lot of debt because of that decision. And I was going through one of those days. In fact, I write about this in the book, Choose to Win. But I was going through some rough days, and and I would literally, did you ever have a Nokia phone? The little flip.
Yes, I did.
You remember the ringtone that Nokia phone had? It had a very well, when I hear that ringtone today, my stomach turns. And the reason is, I would go into my office at 7:30 in the morning, close the door, and then all day long my phone would ring, and it'd be people trying to collect money. And I remember going, and I was telling Dad, and Dad never lost. He was always encouraged. He said, "Son, don't worry about it. We'll get through this." And of course, he was right. But what I was thinking was, "Oh my gosh, Dad spent all these years building his reputation, and I've ruined it. Like I've taken it down." And so I was having a really, just months of this. And so one day, on the way home, I called Bruce. And he goes, "How's it going?" Bruce Barber, the one I'm talking about. And I said, "Man, it's just brutal." And he said, "Well, let me ask you something. Did you do everything you could today?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Did you answer every call?" I said, "Yeah." "Did you tell them all the truth?" "Yeah." "Did you do everything that you said you would and could?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you think God expects any more than that?" And I said, "No." I said, he said, "You had a good day." He said, "You need to leave it all at the office, go home and sleep well. You did all you could, and that's all you can do." And that was a turning point, to have a friend and a mentor speak that into me. And that was a rough time. Well, all these years later, he's my agent, and we've come out with 2 books that he helped me get published. And so that legacy continues. So, gosh, that was 2000. So 2019 was when Choose to Win came out, and then 10 Leadership Virtues for Disruptive Times came out in 2021. So it was literally like 15 or 20 years before the books came out of that. So that's how long our relationship has been. So that's just been a huge thing. Wow. Howard Partridge, who is the next person I'll talk about. He reached out to us about 12 years ago, and he's like, "Gosh, I want to bring Zig Ziglar to one of my conferences." And so he comes in, and we meet, and we just like immediately connect, and he has Dad come down and speak to his group, and I go down there and I start really just kind of figuring out what he does. So Howard's space is he teaches small business owners how to systemize their business.
Yeah.
Right. And there's so many business owners, they got a great product, they've got passion, desire, and they're just hitting the wall. They've been going for a couple of years, but everything's in their head. They don't have the systems in place. And so they struggle. And so I come down to this conference, and everybody there, they're just over the top excited. And it's like almost too good to be true. And so I started interviewing these people because he wanted to do more stuff with us. And so I would go to these business owners one-on-one, and I would say, "Tell me what's happened." And they always said the same 3 things. They said, "First, I'm more profitable than I've ever been because of this. Second, I have more time than I've ever had in my life. And third, they'd start crying. It's like all of them. I have better relationships with my family than I've ever had.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. And then I started hearing Howard speak, and I realized a lot of the material was very familiar because he was quoting so much of the Ziglar stuff. And so he'd been reading that and listening to it and teaching it. And so the next year, we had a family meeting, and we were trying to decide what's the next chapter of Ziglar, because we knew Dad was no longer going to be able to speak. And so the consultant that we said, you know what, you should really start working with small business owners. And they said, but you got to build out your content. Your leadership, your sales, your personal development, that's fantastic. But you also need marketing and operations and, all those things that a business owner needs in order to be effective. So you need to go and build that. And we're driving back from that meeting or flying home, and I'm like, you know what? We know somebody who already does that. Mm-hmm. And so that's when we started our official kind of partnership with Howard. He became the exclusive small business coach for Ziglar. And then he started working his magic on our company and helping us get our systems in place and making better business decisions. And then he says to me, hey, you know what? We need to go around and start doing events together. And so I'd never wanted to be a speaker. My focus had always been putting Dad and the team on stage. And, I was behind the scenes. He said, oh, let's go do these business owner events. And, you can share the Ziglar message and I'll share this. And so now I think we've probably done over 150 events together since then over the years.
Wow.
And that was really the first person who said, you know what, you need to get up and share this, and people need to hear the message just the way you say it. Mm-hmm. And let's go do it. And so Howard has impacted me on so many different levels. He's made our business better. He is who I go to for any type of advice on what we're going to do next. And then personally poured into me because, it's funny. We're all the same. Sometimes people they see more in us than what we see in ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was just, in that relationship is just fantastic. So work with Howard constantly on projects and things like that. In fact, next week we're doing an event together. So another one, 151 or whatever the number is. It's probably more than that. Way more than that if you count webinars and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
And so the third one is Bob Bodine. And Bob Bodine is just amazing. Sports Illustrated named him the most influential man in college sports you've never heard of. He's the background guy who recruits the head coaches and athletic directors and presidents of universities, right? So when a Division I team loses their head coach and they need it to be kind of quiet until they find the new one, he's the guy that does that. Well, Bob has written a couple of books, The Power of Who and Two Chairs, and both of those books are just life-changing books. And so Bob and I hit it off. And in fact, I had breakfast with him today. And so he's a mentor. We kind of spur each other on, but above all that, he's like a friend's friend, right? And he talks about friendship, and he taught me how to claim friends, right? To be intentional about who your friends are and to tell them you love them, and how do you build that, and how do you make that a priority? And so about 10 years now, we've been really, really close, and we share so many things together. I've helped him write his books. He's helped me write my books. In fact, he's working on 2 books right now. So breakfast is always good with Bob. So those are the three, Dad is always going to be that major influence.
Yeah.
And everything. But Dad kind of helped me see discernment in who to pick for friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a challenge. A lot of people aren't, their picker's broken. So whether
For
it's
sure. For sure.
whether it's friends or spouses or whatever, it's partners in business. So I've been blessed. So these three men, any type of big decision or anything that I'm working on, I'm bouncing it off them.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Tom, I just really appreciate you sharing what you have here. And we have certainly accomplished what I've always set out to do with every episode of this, is to, inspire and motivate the listeners to intentionally place more focus on creating more real, meaningful relationships. And so for anybody listening to this, is like, man, that Tom has shared some great stuff. How can they get more information? Is there resources that they can take a look at and pick up from you guys?
You bet. I'm easy to find. Just go to Ziglar.com. That's our website. We got a lot of free gifts there. If you like hope and encouragement, if you want to get an audio recording, digital recording from one of Dad's greatest speeches, just go there and check out our free gifts, get that, and you'll find other things that we do. If you're a coach or a speaker and you're called into that and you want to grow in that, that's what we really focus in on now, is helping people develop in those areas.
Awesome. Awesome. Any last words you want to share, Tom, before we call it a wrap?
No, I'm just grateful. Grateful to go out and kind of share a message of hope and encouragement. That's what Dad said our business was.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, the book that I came out with, it's called 10 Leadership Virtues for Disruptive Times. And I said, it came out at the end of last year. And so I was writing it really since the pandemic started. So it's really for this time that we're in. And so here's the encouragement. The encouragement is the frequency and intensity of disruption is just going to increase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have a choice, right? As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a leader, your choice can be, oh no, this is terrible. When's it going to go back to the way it was? Or, wow, more people need help now than ever before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you focus on helping people and solving their problems, you're going to do fantastic.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are going to shut down and have shut down mentally because of all the disruption. But what I've seen is that people who have a mission, they love what they do. In these times of disruption, they double down, and that's where they have the biggest impact they're ever going to have. So my encouragement here is the world needs you and what you do. And this is the perfect time to go make a difference.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. Really appreciate it. And I'm just excited to share this with more people.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.